Welcome. My name is Betty Miller, and I'm the Director of Paranormal Investigators of New England. And we're doing interest stories that have changed the path of people and hear what has impacted their lives paranormally, spiritually, and to another direction. We have had Scott Frenier on previously. He is with the Vermont division, and he has some great stories that really changed his life, and we're here to bring you another short story. So welcome, Scott, and please do tell us about what happened.
All right, so I'll kind of base my story off of uh, some adult experiences that happened at a former employer. As you can tell by my shirt, I'm actually in law enforcement, and all these stories happened at a place where I actually used to work at the University of Vermont. I was a police officer, and I became a shift supervisor, so I was one of the sergeants on the shift. And as part of some of those duties, I was also the field training officers that came out of the police academy. And my first story, I actually have a couple uh, that kind of verified things for me because it was all shared experience with other officers who are, we're all supposed to be professionals and very uh, uh, document what we see and hear, and we all experience something very similar, if not the exact same thing, and nobody can explain it. So I think my first one will go back to when I was actually field training that one officer. The UVM has a lot of buildings, so we have almost 100, and you have to learn as a police officer each individual building, how the alarm systems work for the fire alarms, the burglary alarms, if they had those, and just kind of like the layout of all the buildings as part of your field training. So I was thinking this. I'm really big into old stuff. I love old things, and architecture at UVM could be really interesting. And there's this one building we were going into that night. It's called Grassmount. It's a little yellow building. If you're going down Main Street in Burlington, after you go past the college, it's over on your right hand or your left hand side. Sorry. And often when we do our field training, we're mostly work night shift. So as whenever you go into buildings at night shift, that's when our custodial staff are working. So we'd always would announce when we went into a building, UVM police, just so we didn't scare anybody, because I've actually inadvertently walked around being stealthy and quiet and scared the crap out of too many custodians, and it's never fun for them and nor me. So I just got used to this announcing my presence if I was going into the building, so not to scare anybody. So I'm teaching that officer to do the same thing. And as we go into Grassmount, it's a 3-story building. 2 stories are occupied. The top story is a little cupola. They can actually see Lake Champlain. And in that space is some of the original wallpaper from the 1800s. And it's kind of neat little space. And that's where I wanted to bring the person again. I like to see all the cool stuff. I don't care about what's in the buildings. I want to see the architecture and the cool things. So we got to do our alarm panel stuff as required to the train. And so I'm going to show you this cupola. It's really, really neat. And as we start going in, we're on the first floor. There's a basement, but we're on the first floor. And I can hear, and the lights are all on, which is rare. They usually aren't. So I'm thinking, oh, there is somebody here. I can hear somebody upstairs. So I announced again, UVM police, we're just in the building to look around. And as we go up the stairwell to the second deck, we can hear, as we're ascending the stairs, you can hear the stairwells kind of mirror each other. And you can hear above us, they're all hardwood floors, somebody walking upstairs but ahead of us. And their steps are opposite of ours. So I was like, oh, there's definitely somebody here, because you can hear them. The kid's like, yeah, I can hear them. Well, as we come up onto the landing, onto the second floor, there's no lights on. I'm like, why would the custodian, they don't have flashlights, so we do, but why would they not turn the lights on? It's kind of weird. And so as we turned around the stairwell to go up to the third deck, which was where that person was going, normally they don't clean up there, but it seemed odd. I thought maybe we spooked them and they were trying to hide or something. As we cleared the next landing, we had our flashes on because the lights are all off, and there's nobody there. and that landing just leads to a door that goes into that cupola. So now the trainee is like, you don't need to show me the space. We're good. We're good. And I'm like, yeah, I'm getting that bad feel. This is like not. This is weird. And but we can hear noises. And we have to like, get him out of here. And the kid's like, he's only like, maybe like a couple weeks on the police academy. And I was like, well, it's our job. We have to make sure there's nobody in here. So we actually go to that door, and it is a separate key that you have to get in there. And it was locked. So I had to use my key. I open the space, and it literally leads into something like maybe 6 foot by 6 foot. And it's totally surrounded by glass. So you can just open the door, peek your head up, and you can see if there's anybody in there. And there's nobody there. And I literally said, there's the wallpaper I wanted to show you. Let's leave. And we locked the door. We beat feet out of there because I was like, that was weird. But so we got to the car. The kids like, do I have to go back in there? And I was like, well, only if the alarm goes off, you would. He's like, okay, well, I don't ever plan on going back in there. And I was like, why? And he's like, well, you heard the footsteps. And I was like, yeah, I heard footsteps. I was making him tell me what I observed, but in his own way. He's like, there was nobody there. I was like, nope, there was nobody there. So I just found it very interesting that we both kind of experienced, heard the exact same thing. Obviously, we're being loud because we're just kind of go around the space, but we can actually hear the movement in other spaces than just physically not seeing anything physically there. Um, so that was just one of the many UVM stories I have. But probably the next one is probably like my most all time favorite ones. So again, being the shift supervisor, I had myself. There was actually 3 officers, myself, so there's 4 people for our shift. We actually get a call from custodial staff that there's kids running around one of the buildings, one of the admin buildings where the classes and classrooms are, and actually like professors' offices and things. So we have to make sure there's nobody, obviously, in the space. It's after hours. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. It's nighttime. Everybody should be sleeping, or at least in the dorms and not there. It was Old Mill is the actual building, which is one of the original buildings for the University of Vermont. It actually burnt a couple times. I don't think there's any fatalities from those fires, but that's where the old dormitories used to be way back in the early 1820s, around then. Um, so we get called, the custodial staff. Well, I actually had one of our officers. She was almost driving right past it when the call came in. So she went right into the building, and another officer was not too far away. So I literally had police officers in the building within 20 seconds, 30 seconds. And the way the building is, there's 2 big stairwells on either side, and then the main hallway in the middle. So the first officer, she went up one stairwell. She radioed to the second guy when he called that he was on scene to come up the other stairwell. So no matter where the person went, they would run into one of the 2 of them, because the only way to get up or down any flights are those 2 stairwells. So we kind of like pinched them in. And so I'm calling, I'm on my way. I had another officer on shift. I said, why don't you come over, because if they get around us, we have to sweep the whole building. And it's a fairly large building, and we have 4 floors we got to do this to. And we're like on the 3rd floor, was where the custodial staff saw the person. So the first officer met with the custodial staff, had them leave their space, leave the building. So that way we just know it's just us and whoever's inside the building. I get that, or I'll back up a little bit. First officer goes up to that 3rd floor, and as she's coming up the stairwell on the landing, she sees somebody run down the hallway. She calls the second officer, says, come up to the 3rd floor. He's running towards you. So he's running up the stairwell. As she sees the suspect running down the hallway, he turns. There's a men's bathroom, and those bathrooms, when you open the door, they had motion lights. So the light came on, and she saw the guy run into the bathroom. Just as the second officer is coming up the stairwell, he looks down the hallway, and you can see the door closing to the bathroom. So they radio me. I'm literally just pulling on scene at the time that they kind of have him trapped in this little bathroom. So, all right, we're going to have to clear it. So I get there. We do our normal police response room clearing because I don't know who it is or what they're going to do. So we have our issued sidearms out, and I was like, I'll be point. I just done a tactical training, so I'll do point. I'll clear the space, and I need people posted on either end. So myself and the other officer who showed up go into the bathroom, and it's maybe a 10 by 10 bathroom. It's a single use bathroom, and I go in, I clear that corners, and there's nobody there. So I'm like, I look under the stall. I'm like, oh, they're standing on the toilet. On the toilet, I can't see any feet. So I'm like, all right. So I try to be all like TJ Hooker and kick in the door, and it dates myself a little bit, I guess. But kick in the door, and there's no one in that space. So I'm like, seriously, you made the whole shift showed up for this police response, and I'm like, now I'm kind of mad at it. I'll be very honest. I was a little mad. And I come out and I talk to the first officer, and she's like, I saw somebody running down the hallway, and they went into that space. So I was the second guy. He's like, I literally saw the door like started to close. So neither of us touched it. How to open? And I was like, okay. And I was like, oh wait, there's a drop ceiling. So I was like, let me check the ceiling because I've had issues where people hide in the drop ceilings. I mean, you have to be fairly small and light to do it because they don't hold a lot of weight. But so I go back in there, take my baton out, and I pop the ceiling tile and pull myself up. And it's totally like cement walls all the way around, so they physically could not get away from that space. It's totally contained. So I'm like, hmm. When I first showed up, I'd actually called for a canine unit just in case. So I'm like, cancel the canine unit. Don't want to need anybody else here. So everybody's like dumbfounded. And I'm like, oh, let's just clear for the night, clear the space. I think we're good. You guys saw whatever you saw, and we'll leave. And later that night, the first officer, the female officer, she called me. And she's like, "Can you meet me over at Old Mill?" Because I think some of our service officers who lock up all the buildings, they were either short staffed or whatever, so we were trying to help them. And she asked me because she mentally couldn't process what she saw, and I don't think she necessarily even thought about spirits. I did, but I didn't want to say anything. I was just like, nope, I'm going to leave it be. We're just going to clear and call it. I'll write the report. We'll be all set. Um, so she actually called me to Old Mill, which is not Old Mill. That's the building we're in. IRL and Chapel, which is the building at the end of University Place. So it's an old church. And on the base floor where the UVM radio station used to be, we're just right out there, which is like a little vestibule. And she's like, I know what I saw. And I'm like, I'm not doubting what you saw. I 100% believe you. I said, maybe this is something else that we don't know about. And I left it at that. And she's like, well, you thinking like ghosts? And I was like, maybe. And she's like, I don't think that's the case. And then she thought about it. She was like, do you really think so? And it was the weirdest thing, literally. I thought the balustrades and the lights were messing with us because those lights always stay on because the radio station's there 24 hours, always open, and there's always airing the radio station. And they start like shutting off, and I was like, then I started getting like my weird, creepy feel, and I was like, she looks at me, and I look at her, and I was like, okay. And the actual switches for the lights, you need a special little key to turn them on and off. They're like within eyesight of where I'm standing. So I know somebody's not physically messing with the lights. And then literally, it's a fairly long hallway. Each ballast shut off for a good like second or two, turn on. The next one didn't turn on. And it went like a daisy chain down the hall and then came back to us. And we're like, we're good. We believe you. We're out of here. And we left.
That's
So for
amazing.
me, yeah, I was just like, wow. Obviously, I could probably tell UVM stories all day long, but those are probably the most impactful for me,
Yeah.
just because it was all witnessed by police officers who were all trained the same and to be observers, and none of us could figure out what we saw or heard. and why things were happening, other than it potentially being paranormal.
Well, and I can understand why nobody wanted to write ghost into their police report. So it just,
No, there
so
was a funny story actually. One day I came into work, and my deputy chief was like a captain at the time. Uh, Came in. I was coming in for shift for an evening shift. And he's like, "Do you know of any paranormal investigation groups?" And I was like, "This is probably like early 2000s, like 2003, 2004." I was like, "Other than like the Ghost Hunter show, I mean, I didn't realize you guys actually probably existed back then. I probably would have called you." I was like, "Other than the Ghost Hunter like TV show," he's like, well, "I don't think they'd want a TV show here, but the university had actually students were complaining in some of the dorms of having paranormal activity. They complained to the residential life staff,
Mhm.
and the staff actually contacted the police department. Of course, we were supposed to fix everything, right?
Yeah.
What do they do? We're like, I don't know.
You
I
can't
know
shoot
now
them.
what I would have done.
Well, you can, but you're not going to make a difference. But
Exactly. Yeah, so it's actually even bigger and more of a larger context. Other than this, the officers' personal experiences, we had students experiencing all
yeah.
sorts of stuff. And I'm sure if you ever did a ghost tour in Burlington, you're probably going to go to UVM, and
Many,
you'll hear
many
some of those.
stories have come from UVM. And actually, to our audience, if you have a ghost story from UVM, would love to hear it because we have heard many people talk to
Yeah.
us over the years about UVM and St. Michael's, and colleges are full of ghost stories. So
Oh
many
yes, they are.
um, so many emotions, so many things that people go through, and even deaths in the building. It all contributes to that. So wow. Well, thank you very much, Scott, for coming on again. And for our audience, once again, if you
Not a
want to talk
problem.
to Scott, you can find him at pi-ne.org, and you'll find our team listing of investigators, and he'll be on that. And you can contact him through there. Or if you want to submit a story, or not only submit, but come on and do a interview for us for our website, our Facebook, and other social medias. We're available and would love to have that interview with you, and that's available through footsteps802@gmail.com, and that'll come directly to me. So, well, thank you again, Scott, and we'll be seeing you later.
All right, see you later.